Hey guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Faith. I'm a registered nurse. On this channel, I talk about general leveling up, especially if you're a nurse who want to relocate from their country to the US. This is the channel for you. So it's been long since I did a sit down video, but here we go again. Today, I'm shooting from a totally different location. If you're new here and you don't know what's been going on, I decided to start my journey to relocate from my country to the US. And the past few months, I stepped in the US in June, and the past few months have been doing a lot of settling down. And I recently settled in my apartment, and so that's the update that I have for you. And so today I want to tell you about the things that you should know when you're looking for an apartment in the US, because it wasn't easy for me. I had to apply to 3 apartments before I could get one. So, and mostly it's because I didn't know a lot of these things, and some of these things are out of your control. There's nothing you can do about them, but it's just good to know such that you are prepared when you are coming here, and especially if you are coming with an agency that will not be on your back when you are looking for an apartment. You should listen to this. There are some agencies that really back their healthcare professional up. They can be their guarantors, they can stand in for them as their guarantors, but that wasn't my case. It wasn't a case with my agency. So I had to meet the requirements of the apartments before they could consider me as their tenant. So that's what we want to talk about today. And also, at the end of this video, I'll be giving you some of the websites that you may go and look at. If you already know where you're going to be placed, you can look around those areas so that you have a price in mind of the kind of apartment that you want to rent. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So guys, the first thing that you want to consider when you're looking for an apartment in the US is your budget. I'll tell you, apartments in the US are not cheap. There are some states that have very cheap housing. There are other states that are they are expensive. So like the state that I'm in, apartments are not cheap. So you have to really look at your budget when you're looking at these apartments. There are some states that are, let's say, in the colder places, apartment rents are a little bit low. So that might favor you. And if you are coming to a state that has warm weather and it's very conducive, it's very likely that your rent will be high. So it is good that you start looking at the apartments around the place that you wanna go stay, and just know exactly what you are getting yourself into. You have to know the money that you're going to pay per month and your income. So really consider your budget as you're looking at these apartments, because you might see an apartment that is very checks every box that you want, but it's very expensive. So you want to look at your budget so that maybe you can sacrifice a little luxury for the time being, so that you may meet your budget requirements when you're still on contract with your agency, and after you are done, or after you've really stabilized in the US, you can move. So you want to look at your rent, the rent that you are going to pay. It's very important. The second thing that you have to consider when looking for these apartments is the distance between your apartment and where you're going to work. Especially if you are a new driver like me. I didn't used to drive back in my country. So when I came here, I was considered a totally new driver. So as much as I went to driving school here again and got my license, I'm still a new driver because these are different roads. There are different road signs you'll learn when you come here. US has a lot of road signs to take in, and they are very serious about traffic offenses. So you have to look for an apartment that is near your hospital, at least 10 to 15 minutes. And guys, if you hear 10 to 15 minutes, don't think that is a walking distance. It's actually a very long distance. The thing is, in the US, the speed that people travel at is like great. So when you hear 10 to 15 minutes, you can't walk within that distance. So just keep in mind that if you decide to take an apartment that's like an hour away, you'll be living very far from your facility. If you take 30 minutes, trust me, you'll be living very far from your facility. So just keep that in mind as you're looking. Sorry for the noise outside. Okay, it's gone. So as you're looking for your apartment, just make sure that it's within 10 to 15 minutes if you're looking to rent. If you're a good driver, you can go up to 20 minutes. That's up to you. But if you're new as me and you drive slowly and you wanna get there on time, just think 10 to 15 minutes. So that's what you have to consider. The third thing that you have to consider when looking for an apartment in the US is your children, the schools that they'll be attending at. So here, districts are like given schools. So when you live in a certain district or county, there are schools that are assigned to that district. So you have to look at where you're going to stay and what kind of school your child is going to study in. So you have to go online, and when you're searching for an apartment, you look at the schools around there and you look at the ratings of the school. So if you have a school that has very low ratings, definitely that's not a good school for your kid. Ratings are usually from people that have gone there, people that have sent their kids there, and they know what they are talking about. Sometimes it can be out of spite, but you have to look at those ratings and think critically if you really want your child to be in such a situation. So when you're looking for your apartment and you have children, please put your children into consideration, the distance between the school and that apartment, and what kind of school is in that district where your apartment is. So that's one thing that parents should really consider when looking for an apartment here in the US. The fourth thing that you have to look for when you are looking to rent an apartment is the number of bedrooms that you want. So here in the US, they are very strict about the apartment that you are renting, and they want you to have at most 2 heartbeats in 1 bedroom. So if you are like a family of 5 or a family of 3, you can't rent a 1-bedroom apartment. So if you have like 2 kids or 1 child, you have to get your bedroom and you have to get a bedroom for those kids. So the rule is at most 2 heartbeats in 1 bedroom. So no apartment will take you if you want to squeeze several people in 1 bedroom. It's always 2 to 1 room or 1. So that's something you really have to consider. It's not like back in our country, you can decide to live in a single room house with your wife and children. That doesn't apply in the US. So take that into consideration as you are looking to rent here in the US. Another thing that you have to consider, that's the fifth thing when renting apartment in the US, is the amenities that apartment comes with. The amenities and the utilities. When you're looking, ask for if they take care of the trash, if it is included in the rent. Sewer, ask if it is included in the rent. You have to ask about the utilities that will come with the apartment, if the apartment will come with a washer and dryer, because you realize this apartment, some of the rules that they give you when you want to rent the apartment is don't hang anything outside on the balcony. So you can't hang your clothes outside. You can't say, I'll wash my clothes in the bathtub and hang them out, so I don't need a washer and dryer. So in some of them, they have washer and dryer, but they're like a community washer and dryer, and you have to pay like cents or $1 for you to use the washer and then $1 to use the dryer. So if you want such kind of arrangement, which is for me is hectic, you go for it. But those are some of the things you're supposed to look at. So for me, I prefer to look for an apartment that has a washer and dryer in unit, that is in the apartment. Some of them will tell you they have the washer and dryer hookups, whereby you come and buy your own washer and dryer and you hook it up in there. They have the provision for the washer and dryer, like a room for it, but they don't have it inside. So you come with yours and you hook it up. You might consider that if you have the money, but I'll rather, for me, I decided to look for an apartment that has it in unit, so that if it breaks or anything, they can repair it. And yeah, so look at such amenities and utilities when you are looking at your apartment. Some apartments can tell you when you come here you need to get a cable, and some will tell you they offer a cable with a certain amount. So you have to realize that when they offer a cable, you'll be paying a certain amount for it, and when they give you the flexibility of getting your own cable, you have the flexibility of buying whichever cable that you want, if it is more than theirs or less. So those are some of the things you have to put in mind when you are like looking to rent these apartments. So yeah, okay, some of the amenities that you also have to, if you are into gym, just see if they have a gym. Most of the apartments here have a swimming pool and a gym, so I think that you will not have to worry about at most, because most of these apartments offer that. So those are some of the things that you ought to look at when you are looking for these apartments. And talking in terms of people who will be searching online or even in person, because even if you go there in person, you have to know that really these things are there. So you'll have to ask around, check around, and make sure they are there. Okay, another thing that you have to consider when you're looking at this apartment is like the childcare facilities around it. If you have very young children and you need to take them to baby cares and daycares, just make sure that they are within reach and they are at a manageable distance, that you can drop them and pick them up when you come back. I don't know much about daycares, but I think it's a thing here, because you can leave your 12 and below child in the house alone, and even if they are like 10 and above, there is a specific duration of time they can be left alone in the house. So just take note of that. If you have young children's, just make sure there is a provision of a daycare around you, so that. And also look at the rent, the amount of money that you'll be paying in that daycare, because it all comes to your budget. So it's something very important when you have children to look at. Another thing that you have to look at when you're looking at this apartment is the ratings. Google is very good with that, and even the links that I'll give you, the plugs that I'll give you to start looking at those apartments, you'll see how people have rated these apartments. You don't want to go to an apartment that has theft issues, a lot of issues that are bad. So you'll see what people say about that community, and then you'll decide if you want to go there, because it is critical that your safety comes first. You don't want someone to chop off your head. Then what will be the reason for you coming here? You are coming here to look for a better life for yourself, and your security should come first. So that's a very important thing to look at, the ratings. See what people are saying about these apartments. Yeah, some people will say ratings, and then they also include pictures, so they'll give you a clear picture of really what you are going to look at to get if you decide to move in a certain community. So look at the ratings, and also consider the ratings that are at least 6 months and to the time when you are looking at that apartment, so that you have a clear picture of what the apartments looks like, because some may be from 2013. 2013 is a very long time. Sometimes these apartments change their management or they improve, so don't rely on the reviews that were done a long time ago. Just look at the reviews like from 6 months to the time when you are looking at to rent that apartment. Okay, now those are the things you're supposed to look at when looking at these apartments. So this is what you should keep in mind when you come to the US. In the US, you have to pay renter's insurance, and it's like mandatory to most of these apartments. So just keep that in mind. You have to look for a renter's insurance before you sign that lease. So that's very important, and the insurance is good. It protects you in case maybe your neighbor left their tap running or something burst, like a fire burst, and they damage your things in the house. They will take care of it in case your house maybe something happens. The insurance will come in and cover for it. So renter's insurance is mandatory for most of the apartments in the US. Also, the US really looks at your credit history, and this really, like, it was really a pain in my butt. When you live in the US, there is something called the credit history. This shows your borrowing, your ability to borrow money and pay it back. So most of the people in the US have a credit card, and they use that credit card for most of their purchases, and they borrow money from that credit card and pay it back, like to maintain just to show that you are a trustworthy person and you can borrow money and pay back. So if you come to the US like me, with no credit history, I didn't have any bank account or credit card in the US, so I have zero credit history. That will really play a role in if an apartment will take you or not. So my first apartment that I applied to, they didn't ask me, we didn't get to that level. There are some issues that came up, and we didn't go through with the application. My second apartment, they asked for a guarantor, because I didn't have a credit history, and I did get a guarantor, but they were asking a lot from my guarantor, so we couldn't push through with that. So this apartment that took me in, they asked me to produce extra cash so that they can take me. So I had to pay extra money just for like an unrefundable fee so that they can take me in, because I don't have a credit history. So credit history here is important. That's why I want to tell you, if you're coming, please save up money, because especially if your agency will not like act as your guarantor, save up money, because you need it to get your housing. So that really ate up my bank account, the extra cash that I had to pay on top of the rent and all these insurances. It's a lot. So another thing that you have to know here is, you don't just apply to an apartment. There are fees that you have to pay before someone even looks at your application. So there is something that's called the application fee. It goes up to 200 USD. Mostly it's 150, 150. There's something called the administrative fee. You also have to pay that. So just money. Before they look at your application, pay that application fee. Some of them will tell you pay the application and administrative fee. So it's not like back in my country where you could just wake up and decide, I want this apartment. And you walk there and it's empty, and they tell you, do you have money? You get in. No. They look at a lot of things that you have to produce before they give you a space in the apartment community. Another thing that you have to know in the US is, you have to have a social security number for most of the apartments for them to consider you. That is like somehow mandatory. I think I've covered a lot of the things that you need to know when you're becoming to rent apartments in the US. So if you are with my agency, I know they might send you links on where to look for apartments. Start looking right now and prepare yourself psychologically. The thing is, you won't get that apartment when you come here, but when you are looking, you'll have an idea of what kind of rent you're going to pay, how much money you have to have in your pocket as you're planning to get an apartment. So with that being said, I want to give you guys some of the sites that you can go and look at the houses that are around you, and just have a rough idea of what kind of apartment community you will be looking at. And if you are lucky enough, if you like an apartment, by the time you come in the US, they might be having apartments available for you. So the first link is forrent.com, and you'll see the names pop up on the screen. Forrent.com. Another one is rent.com. Another one is Zillow.com. Another one is apartment.com. Another one is apartmentratings.com. There's another one called Zoompa.com. There's another one that's called hotpads.com. Then there is Google. Google is very important. My last house, I got it on Google. It wasn't on any of these sites. I got it on Google. I just Googled apartments near the hospital that I was going to work with, and it popped out. So some of these apartments will not list their properties on those websites, but they'll have them available on their own site. So just bear that in mind as you're looking at these apartments. Whether you are there or you are here in the US, know that these are the things and that you'll have to consider when looking at apartments to rent. So I think with that being said, I've talked said much about apartments, and you saw my apartment. Most of the apartments, that's the kind of layout you will get here in the US, unless you're going to those very high-end apartments, or I'll say this apartment is like in the middle. But there are also very cheap apartments, and when you're going for cheap apartments, just that very cheap apartments, just be sure of the kind of community you are going to and the people around, because you can go to somewhere cheap and it's not safe for you. So there are so many things that, and security is number one thing you have to consider when looking at these apartments. So with that being said, I think I've shared what needs to be shared about apartment hunting, and I'm sorry I couldn't go around hunting apartments physically because that wasn't like a provision with my agency. We had to go to their headquarters in Florida and we had to search for apartments online. So by the time I was leaving Florida, I already had an apartment that I was just coming to sign the lease. So if you are waiting for an apartment hunt, maybe that will be in the future, because this is not an apartment that I'm going to stay with forever. I might stay here for some time, maybe for this time that I have this contract with my agency, or I might move earlier. So just stay tuned. An apartment hunt will come, that's for sure, in the near future. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about apartments. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching. For those who are new, welcome to this family. Be ready for a lot of learning and just sharing my life as I transition from my country to here. Yeah, that is it. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.